by working on that, so what you're doing is you're surrendering your fears and resentments. So they become more and more, it's like as you let go of anything you're very fearful or very addictive, the pull it has becomes less and less. So it affects you less and less the more spiritual work you do. So like my fears and resentments tend to be very mild and short-lived nowadays, and my spiritual state tends to be, I mean, compared to 15 years ago, my spiritual state is up here all the time, and my fluctuations into fear and resentment go about like this. Whereas before I used to live down here, and it was like fear, terror, addiction, and total self-loathing, being locked in a body and having all these projections. It was horrific. Whereas now, I've done so much spiritual work, it's like, generally I'm quite up here, peaceful and happy.
Yeah.
You see, there is no need for protection. This is the Course in Miracles. You see, the truth is love, you see. The ego thinks that the truth is separation and fear and a world of separation, duality. And it thinks that love is something which is alien, if that makes sense. So most people in the world think that being in a physical body and being very separate from people and living in high levels of fear or resentment or judgment, that's like real. You know, that's the real world. And this thing of, which I used to do, I mean, I did in 15 years, I mean, I did a lot of spiritual work. You know, you can have like a bubble of light to protect you and all of that stuff. But that's like still, once you like let go of your ego, you realize that love and light is the true nature of the universe, without any separation. So you don't need protection. Once you're connected to that level of love, what is there to fear? I mean, there is nothing to fear. You know, and also what was discussed here, which was eloquently said, there is nothing in the world to fear unless you project meaning onto it. Like there can be a rat here, a spider here, I don't know what else we can put on the table. There could be a rat on the table, a spider on the table, and some other object on the table. And a snake. So you can have those three objects, and yet for like, say if you've got like Buddha sitting over there, I mean nothing happened. He's in like sublime peace and bliss. You know, at the level of enlightenment, you're at one with the whole universe. So you're also have divine wisdom and the intuition of God. So your natural intuition will guide you as to whether you're going to stroke the snake or leave it alone. That will spontaneously be a natural consequence of the wisdom of the field, God consciousness. Sometimes it might be that Buddha might pet the rat, and sometimes he might not leave it alone.
May I say something?
Yeah.
I had a similar experience today, because a group of dangerously looking guys was passing, you know, and I kind of stepped off the way, and then I judged myself as I'm fearful, you know. But then I thought that's not necessarily that, because maybe I just felt that it's that the wisest now would be just step away, you know, not necessarily try to prove that I am not fearful and then get punched or something. So I did this experience, you know, today that I was in Canary Wharf station, I think. Yeah, that I thought, that's not necessarily fear. It may be intuition. If that says anything.
You also have to see what level of consciousness you're at. You can only be the level of spiritual development you're at, if that makes sense. So if you've resolved your ego to some extent you'll be starting to tune into divine intuition. But to some extent you might be trying to apply spirituality at a level you're not at yet as of yet. So if you're not fully in alignment with divine intuition, sometimes you'll try and fake something that you're not. But one of the things with, like, it's very, very funny, this one. So you've got to understand as well that the whole nature of the other thing changes depending on what level of consciousness you're at as well. Like, so Hawkins wrote this thing, which I know to be true. So he went into an abandoned shed. It's in his book. And there was a rattlesnake in the thing, and he'd just disturbed the rattlesnake as he came in, and it like hissed. So he totally surrendered his ego and went into bliss. And you see, that level of bliss also affected the snake, you see. So if you're at that level of bliss, suddenly the snake left him alone. It was in bliss as well, because the power of the field is so strong that even a snake suddenly becomes benign. Now, that's one thing if you are at that level. But if you go into a level saying, and you're not at that level, and you're really afraid of the snake, and you go, I'm going to pet the snake on the head, and you're like, there's still fear there. If you pet the snake on the head, you know, the snake will bite you.
That reminds me of Star Wars.
Yeah.
A New Hope, in that scene where a lot of scenes actually, I'm only like halfway through the first one.
Yeah.
Where Obi-Wan Kenobi like speaks to the stormtroopers, and he just like almost tells them what they need to say to him. Is it like?
Oh yes, yeah. You know,
he says,
like,
"Oh, there's no problem here.
There's no problem here." Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no
right. I know
problem
that.
Oh, right,
Let them be on their way. Okay, I'll just let you be on your way.
Yeah.
Is that like, because obviously he's channeling the force, so it's almost as though he's at that level of vibration where does he almost impass that on to other people around him?
Yeah, it is. It is like that in the sense that I think the best way is to look at like Jesus. You know, it's like he had so many followers. You know, however, for people who choose, who are subscribing to the ego, they can decide not to. You know, so like, you know, the Romans could decide, even though they probably knew he was quite a nice bloke, thought that for selfish reasons they thought, oh yeah, we can put him on the cross, and the Jews. So there you got someone radiating a very high field of love, and lots of people being attracted to that love and feeling the love, and yet some of them not refusing their vested interests, and so choosing to get rid of that because it would like blow away all their vested interests.
Right.
To have to give in to that, and the whole way, if you're getting tons of money and tons of power, and that would mean you'd have to give it all up if this guy lives. You know, you can choose not to do it. But then the others who would experience miracles and saw the truth of that field of love. Yeah, but in that case with Hawkins and the thing, the snake just got the thing. We also get that in 12-step groups. You know, the field of love is so much that a person who'd normally be angry or grumpy, in that level of love, they tend to be nicer, or they can let go of their resentments, they tend not to act out so much. So it is like when you go into these spiritual groups, the normal nature of the person shifts in that field of love. They tend to be much more spiritual.
I do have a question for you,
Yeah.
if you don't mind.
Please do.
You mentioned about aligning your will with God's.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between, because I've heard this recently where she says, I choose not to align my will with God's, I choose to transcend it. Like, is there a difference
Yes.
between the two?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
is that?
Transcendence would be enlightenment.
Okay.
There'd be no self-will left. There'd be no ego left.
Okay.
If you transcend your ego, this is what St. Francis talks. It's in the death, it's in dying that one is born to eternal life. It's in the death of a thing that thinks it's separate from God and can make choices in separation to God on its own will and volition, and it thinks it can make choices. When that is gone, then you have transcended your ego, or that's classically called enlightenment. So then it's only the divine that then orchestrates what's left over.
Because I think she was talking about it in the context of being in a relationship, and she was like, I'm not in a relationship. It was something that I really wanted, but I've chosen almost to like transcend that want and need and just completely surrender it. So I'm not going out there and, you know,
Oh yeah.
going on internet dating sites or like looking for that partner.
I think you can say it in that context. However, I think the word would better be surrender.
Okay.
Because if you surrender a relationship and then pick up alcohol, it looks like you have in a way given relationships up to God, chastity, whatever it is. But it's like someone in an addiction program, food for example, saying, "I surrender sugar. I've transcended sugar." I think it's a bit too flamboyant. More like I would prefer to say surrender sugar, but I still have my will active in all areas of life. You see, whereas transcendence usually has more of a meaty merit to it, like you've really done some serious surrendering, and you're really close to God. But it can be used in that context as well, as similar to surrender. I surrender alcohol or I surrender drugs. I transcend alcohol. I transcend sugar. Well, what is dirty is just a projected meaning. You see, for one person, a rat is a dirty thing. For another person, that's also a projected thing. You see, you especially know that in hospitals where you go to, where you have the staff, where they take no. See, it doesn't matter whether it's a rat or a vomit, bag of vomit, or whatever it is. You can do some practical exercises to get you out of your thinking. So, any object or thing out there, the only reason it stays in your consciousness and there's description of that form is because of the projected meaning that the ego is laying onto that form. If it projected or laid no meaning or gave no interest to the form, it would not exist and you would not notice it. Okay? So, like I often share, I was in the group many months ago, and I was talking to everyone in the group, and then I said, "Can you hear the traffic noise outside?" And then everyone heard the traffic noise outside, but then while I was talking before, nobody heard the traffic noise. So, it means that you only notice anything if you're interested in it, or there's projected meaning that the ego is placing on it. When the ego no longer projects any meaning or interest on anything, even if it exists in the world, if it doesn't give any meaning, it doesn't exist. It doesn't notice it. The same thing I described, the same phenomena with I've got a tube track going out my house. And when I first arrived there, I could hear it. Now I can't hear it. So a bag of vomit or a rat is the same thing as noise outside, traffic noise outside in the thing. When the ego no longer has any interest or gives it any meaning, you don't even notice it's there. It doesn't block the essence of love and peace and stillness and intuition that is always here. So it's only the ego being active and tracking information or projecting meaning or saying it's good or bad or this or that, then that creates either a resentment, either an anger or a wanting for it, these dualistic layers that it will use to get hooked into phenomena, and that stop you from the divine essence. And it creates a separation. So we talk about the more spiritual work you do, it's like I was showing earlier, it's like you're no longer in a body. It's not, start to stop the feeling of separation starts to go away. Also very, very polarized things of I really am extremely afraid of this or I extremely want that start to become much more lighter. And there's because the divine essence of love and peace and stillness become more and more present. And also the restriction of me being a separate location to everything. So we get more to the unity and oneness of all of existence. There is nothing. You can only have an ego that says something is I don't like out there. That doesn't exist in the truth. That's only an aspect of when there's high polarities like obsessive compulsive disorder. It's like there's such strong and also addiction, both are the same. Strong disconnection from the source, So these extreme opposites start to occur. You know, either, you know, like I was like, oh, that the donuts would be like so like huge pull for donuts, and the things I didn't like, extreme like wanting to get away from them. So those, because you're so disconnected from the source, as you do the spiritual work, they become less and less. They become like you get mildly interested for donuts, and things you don't like is slightly annoying. And then when you get to enlightenment, there is nothing you don't like, because you have to have an ego that says this thing is not likable. Yeah, I mean the ego is a source of judgment. In oneness there can be no judgment, because everything is you.
Yeah.
And there is no separation. It's like, how can, you know, if you're in unity with everything and there's no separation, the judgment cannot exist. And if the source is truth and love and light, then there can be nothing to fear and nothing to want. So the more meaning you give to things, and the meaning of you don't like it, then it becomes even louder.
Yes.
So if I don't like the loud noise outside, traffic noise, then, and there is a noise outside, it will be like horrific. And if it's like, you know, I like to use the word boring. You're not resisting something when it's totally boring and uninteresting. It's like you don't even give it any power from the ego. You know, so like I might as well share this, because I work a program for food. So the program I work with food is just to have very boring food, uninteresting food. You see, because I was like an addict. You know, if you gave me donuts and chocolates, you know, I'd be like, oh, that's very exciting. And so it's the great, if you're eating food which is plain and simple or healthy, then there is no, it's like my ego can't get involved in that. So it's like there is no attraction or aversion to it. It's a neutral thing, you see. So it doesn't block the spiritual connection in that way. So what we're talking about, you know, with the rat, it doesn't really matter, because the Course in Miracles talks about form, and we're letting go of our hooks to form, whether it's an attraction or aversion. We're letting go the hooks of form so that we can get to the formless, or the place of unity, or no separation, or beyond a this and a that. Yes? So that which is, whatever it is within the ego consciousness, something that you think is extremely disgusting, or something that behavior you can't stop doing because it's so exciting. You see, you get beyond the dualistic layers of form, and only what projects form. You have to have an ego to project form. But like any phenomena that exists, you can, if you lose your interest in it, i.e. you then lose, the Course in Miracles says the meaning. We make things, you know, all your thoughts are meaningless. All objects in this room are equally meaningless. So if you lets go of the ego's projection of value or description that it lays on things, so you're losing your ego, which creates separation in the dualistic layers, and the idea that this and that, and a world of fear, and a world where the rat is horrible and the donut is very exciting, this starts to slip away. Because that then cuts you off from the source of truth, which is the love and unity that exists. So you're asking, what can I do? That is one of the lessons, you see. The lessons are, it's an action. So you have a picture of a rat on the table, and then you go, this rat is as meaningless as this cup, this mug on the table, which is as meaningless as this bulb. And you keep going around. They're all equal, as meaningless as the pillow. Keep going around. Very soon that will start, you look at the rat and it'll be like, there's nothing there. I mean, it's as exciting as a mug of water. You see, actually when it becomes a mug of water in what you projected on it, then you're freed of that having any impact on your connection to God. You see, there's nothing there. So to someone who's enlightened, they won't notice the rat or even have much of a thought about the rat. It's like you'd say, oh look, there's a glass of water there. Like, so what? There's a glass of water there. oh, there's a rat there, so what? You know.
What about, I
Yes.
mean, that's a related question, because we are talking about objects, and obviously it's the same about situations, you know,
Yes.
we give meaning to situation or not. But where I trip over is being not nice, by being not nice, because, you know, the course says that, okay, even though it's an illusion, it doesn't mean that we should behave irresponsibly, you know.
Yes.
And I would like to know what does it mean, because I have these recurring situations since forever when I'm being not nice to someone, and because I feel as a reaction, I'm being not nice as a reaction, as I cannot stand it anymore or something, and then obviously I beat myself up, you know, and I know that at the moment I have the least the minimal meaning comparing to all my past, but it's here, it's still here, and it's going on and on and on, and I'm thinking, it's really, you know, it's reoccurring situation when I play the perpetrator, and there's the victim. Obviously, the perpetrator comes out from the victim, because at first I'm a victim, and then I turn into a perpetrator to protect me.
Yes.
And it's ongoing situation, you know. I'm thinking, okay, you know, it's meaningless, but it doesn't feel like it's meaningless.
Okay, so if it's not meaningless, then it's not meaningless yet, yeah?
Okay, but you know, so how do I translate that it's that even though it's an illusion and it's meaningless, we should not.
Oh no,
you know,
meaningless doesn't mean an intellectual idea. When something is meaningless, it's an experience, you see.
Right.
So it's not enough, you have to do the exercises until such time as... this is a good question, you know. If I interact with a person that my ego projects a lot of meaning onto, then I feel disconnected, because it's like either they're extremely important or I don't like them. It's usually the two.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you're at those two polar opposites, if that ego is involved in the interaction, then there'll be a huge feeling of disconnection, either like or insanity.
That's why.
Because that happens when the ego is involved. The ego is saying this is very good or very bad. Yes.
Exactly.
So when so it becomes, if this person is meaningless or uninteresting or boring, then it doesn't stop the flow of love or speaking or naturalness. So you can do like, you have to like, the lesson I was saying, like you can have a photograph of this person is as meaningless as the chair, who's as meaningless as the plant, or else, okay,
is
you
it
can
person
ask...
or is it situation? Because I don't think it's a person really, you know.
Situation?
Yeah, because you know, the person, anyone can be there. You know, for me, whatever, you know, I can project on...
Okay, you can do self-inquiry on it then. So the other way to do it is with self-inquiry. So right now, there's a certain situation that troubles you, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So if you think of it now, it is troubling you when you think of this situation.
It is, yeah.
Okay, good. So, you know, the you that is being troubled by this situation, yes? You are feeling troubled by this situation when you think about it, yes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, correct. So, what is the you that is troubled by this? What are you right now that can be troubled by this situation?
It's the you which thinks, it's a me who thinks that I'm wrong.
That you're wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
So there is some thinking going on now that you can be wrong in this situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this thinking that is going on right now? Yes. Is this thinking you?
Okay, it feels like it's me, but I remember that it's not.
Okay, so, but at the moment it feels like it's you.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So there's this thinking now that's feeling like it's you, yes?
Yes.
Okay, good.
It dissolves because I cannot hold it with you too much.
Okay.
It's like, where
Okay.
it was.
Okay, exactly. Because now that we're looking into this thing, because it's dissolving.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you are not this thinking.
yeah.
So is this thinking still you now? Does it feel like this thinking is you?
I'm in at the moment it's like there's a the state of surprise. You know, how can it be so? How can it appear so real when I start to see that it's not?
That's because you're hooked into your identity as being the thinking. So
Right.
your thinking identity can be in the victim-perpetrator model that your thinking identity creates. But if you're not a thinking identity, then it can have no effect on you. So that's another way of dealing with it, you see. Only an ego-body-mind identification can be offended by anything. If you're not an ego-mind-body identification, there's nothing there that can be upset by it. It depends what you are, you see.
I have a question.
Yeah?
Is it in line with Course in Miracles teaching
Yes.
that you replace something that you find repulsive in your mind, you replace it with something you find pleasurable? So
No.
the example I'm thinking of is, say you're walking down an alley and you get this real strong smell of pee, and you're like, oh, you know, and my reaction would be to hold my breath as I walk through
Yes.
that area. And then, as you were saying, if you resist it, it persists.
Yes.
So would you breathe in, would it have the same result if you were to breathe in that strong smell of pee
Yeah.
and be like, it smells of roses? Or is it only okay to be like, this smell is meaningless to me? And the same with smells when it comes to foods as well. So say when we smell the sugary bread, or you know, like when you're eating something, be like, this tastes like sawdust to me, or this smells like, say you could smell it, you could breathe in the smell of sugary bread and actually in your mind be like, this stinks like pee. Like, does that make sense? So instead of it becoming absolutely meaningless, it's like you're replacing
Well,
the
you
two.
see, because because the question you asked me is from the level of the Course in Miracles, because I
Yeah.
sometimes talk about my own interpretation,
Mm.
but the Course in Miracles clearly says meaningless.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
only
you know,
yeah.
whereas I might personally make pee into something nice, but the
Mm.
Course says meaningless. What does that mean? Meaningless means, the Course really, for me, my interpretation is let go of your projected ego meanings of anything in the whole world.
Mm.
Don't describe good, bad, indifferent to anything. Forget it. You know, forget. By doing the exercises, it's like we're going to dismantle your whole ego filtering system of the whole world. We're going to like take it all out. Let's get rid of the whole thing, and what will be left will be the truth, you see. So the ego exists because it describes positive, negative attributes to any particular object. So it's creating this huge filter of the whole world based on its own predetermined belief systems about what is good and what is bad. So it's like you get rid of, when something is meaningless, it's like the ego has nothing to hold on to, so it vanishes. You know, there's nothing to hook onto as good or bad, you see. So it's like it's removed and never to be replaced, because the ego doesn't live on neutral. It has nothing to hook onto.
You know, because I was reading, I'm on lesson 121, and it talks about forgiveness.
Yeah.
And it says to see that person that you have an aversion towards,
Yeah.
you know, your enemy, and then to see light.
Some glimmer of light in them, and then
Yeah,
transfer it to yourself.
But that kind of feels a little bit like, to me, in the example of the pea, instead of breathing in the light, I'm breathing in the flowers, or I'm breathing in the love, as opposed to the smell of the pea.
Yeah.
Like that seems to be like that seeing the light in someone seems to be creating a you and a me. That, does that make sense? Like there's creating you and a me, and I'm trying to see the light in you.
Yeah.
When the lessons earlier on would be like, I would just look at you and see you as meaningless.
That's right.
If I was trying to practice against you being an enemy.
Yeah.
So the two lessons always seem to be at odds with each other.
Yes, that's correct. And like in my last email newsletter, I talked about it a little bit. The Course uses various ways of dismantling the ego, but it does say, like, we forgive, even though there's nothing to forgive in the Course. So it's a tool. It's a tool within the illusion. Within the illusion, there is a me. The Course is asking me to forgive you for whatever it is, yeah? So it's in some of the lessons, it's accepting that I exist as a separate identity and that I must forgive you. But then later on, the Course says there is nothing to forgive you for. At the level of absolute truth, there's nothing to forgive in reality. So the forgiveness is like an artificial tool excuse me. Okay, yeah, thank you. The forgiveness is like, while I'm operating in duality as a separate entity from you, I still use forgiveness while I still believe I'm a me and there's a you to forgive. But then that eventually takes me to a place when there is no separation. So we're still using a tool, like I'm seeing you full of light, and I'm seeing you like Jesus. But that's still in the realms of trying to forgive, until that's no longer required when we get to the unity, past the separation. So those are just different tools, and it's hammering away at the ego from different angles. But eventually we're going to, it talks about going to a place beyond time, to the timeless, a place beyond form, a place beyond separation. Then the tools, where it says in the Course, eventually you don't need any of it any longer, because you've now transcended all the seeming dualistic tools it's given you to get to the place of unity or oneness of the non-dual state, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's hacking you, but
so you could, as another tool, with that aversion to certain things, if you might, I might not feel strong enough or feel connected enough to be, this smell is meaningless, or this person is meaningless, you can replace it with something that's more pleasurable in your mind.
I would, because from an own practical point of view, yeah, I could. Pee is a good one, isn't it? It's funny, quite funny. There is quite a pee smell if you go down the.
We can go try practice.
We can all have an outdoor excursion one day for a group. Pee and rats. Pee and rats. We've got excited.
Pee and poo. Yeah. Your bag of vomit, because the bag of vomit, it's a really strong smell, isn't it?
Yeah. And the look, not very inviting look. Yeah.
All right, next week's going to be exciting.
It feels really real. Like, you can't help it when you smell that bag of vomit. You're like, oh, like it's a real.
We've been conditioned. Yeah.
People and everything. So yes.
Well, so I would personally, I would smell it. I think with pee, I would, I've seen nurses. They have no effect to vomit.
Yeah.
They have no effect. It's like, and they still love it. They still, I've been full of blood and all kinds of stuff. Nurses they ignore it. So, blood, pee, poo, have absolutely. It's just the meaning that you project onto it. Otherwise, you don't even notice it's there. It doesn't block the flow of love. So I got. Yeah. So I might go. This pee is lovely. And I love this smell.
Let's make it. Guys, you know what?
Yeah. Sorry, you've come halfway in. You might understand.
Can we take it one level up, sort of?
Yeah.
Because
The class is about fear.
yes, okay, this is an object. But what about inhaling the smell which has possible effect, whatever, which obviously doesn't, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. What if we replace acid? We'll pour with acid. Okay, will it be, if I am so connected and so in one, then I can put acid on myself and nothing's gonna happen?
Yes, yeah. It is actually the case if you cancel your belief in something. So now we're getting. You have to be at that level. I don't recommend you do these things.
No.
Caveat. However, at the level. So classically, because actually it is a good question because we do the cancelling of beliefs in this group. So God did not create cancer, so it is not real. You know, so people can have like huge tumorous lumps in them, and in Hawkins' group, by cancelling their beliefs that in the cancer's disappeared and AIDS disappeared. So incurable medical diseases have gone.
But you have to really walk through that fear.
Well, you have to let go of the belief.
Yeah.
You see, the whole world is tied to beliefs, and also there's shared collective beliefs within societies and within the collective unconscious, which we all agree to. If you let go of these beliefs, they have no effect. In fact, even when you're talking about acid, but it's been well known in India for thousands of years. They've described what's called the siddhis. The siddhis are the mystical states. When you reach very, very high mystical states, you can be at two places at the same time, and all kinds of extraordinary things where even the laws, or the seeming laws of physics, break down because you've transcended them. So
Everyone's got that ability then.
yes, everyone. If you let go of enough the ego, everyone gets those abilities. If you let them go, you know, something like acid wouldn't affect you because you're now. You see, what you have to understand. See, the world is an illusion, and God is love. Okay, so what does that mean? So what that means is, I mean, if you're connected to the creator of the whole universe, there is nothing that is impossible. Because all the laws of the universe, you're beyond time, beyond space, beyond the physicality. And if it's divine will, because at those levels you're in connection with divine will, all things are possible. I mean, I guess that's probably why Jesus said, if you had faith, you could move mountains. And, you know, bringing the dead to life, all of those kind of things, with kinesiology came as true miracles reported by Christ.
Well, why would you bring, you know, why would you bring someone back to life?
Hawkins mentioned it. It was divine will was acting through him at the time,
okay.
And it would be like Buddha. Buddha came into a time of peace and he taught enlightenment, whereas Christ came into a time of huge conflict and turmoil and taught salvation or unconditional love. The enlightenment wasn't appropriate. And it just so happened that the divine will allowed him those miracles to carry the message he was carrying at that time. That doesn't come from the ego will. So it's not like...
There's no reason for it, really.
You know, there's not like... Because the ego would look on doing divine work means I can just manifest a Ferrari and win the lottery and stuff like that. I mean, there is no ego left. That's in accordance with... And what can God not do if it's the creator of the whole universe? Well, God can do whatever it wants to do. When I had my white light spiritual experience, it's like infinite power, light and love beyond description. I mean, the magnitude of power and light and love is so enormous. If you're connected to that level, I mean, things like acid and things, I mean, you're in union with the creator of the universe, the power that gives rise to all of this and that. So what can it not do? It can do what it likes to do. But it's not an ego that does that.
Right.
The more the ego is in existence, the more cut off you are from that source. When you let go of a belief in anything, any limiting belief in the idea within the collective fully, then you're in alignment with God's will. So the laws that you think operate in the universe don't operate. So also on a more simplistic level, you know, the 12 steps who have a lower level of surrender, but still the miraculous occurs where people who are insane with addictions, if they surrender, you know, they stop drinking alcohol, stop drugs, stop their love addiction or codependency, whatever it is. It's kind of reported in certain things no longer have an effect on them. Like in groups, they'll say, I can see a glass of alcohol and I hardly notice it any longer. Or I see a packet of chocolates on the table and I didn't notice it. It has no effect on me. Or I'll often say I walked past a busy shopping centre and there was no effect. I was in peace. So these things no longer have any effect. But it's also the effect, if you go to the level of Course in Miracles, then you cancel your belief that these things have an effect on you. And it just so happens that miracles occur at a high level. If you cancel your belief in cancer, cancer leaves your body. But you have to fully cancel it. I mean, it's not enough just to intellectually understand the idea. I myself, I mean, this is part of the reason I'm so excited that we did cancelling the beliefs. Because I had kidney failure left me, I was discharged from the asthma clinic, I stopped, I used to have these horrific gout attacks, they're gone. I haven't taken gout medication for years, I haven't had to be use an inhaler for years, I'm not on a machine. All of these things gone as I was cancelling my beliefs.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I was more passionate to cancel my belief in kidney failure and asthma than I was to do my positive beliefs. But eventually, as you evolve spiritually, you let go of your positive beliefs as well. Because all belief systems tie you to duality, you see. So the positive beliefs work positively, but if you want to get to the realm of the formless and the stillness, you want to cancel any positive belief as well. Also with this, like with self-inquiry or spiritual work, all evolved spiritual teachers will say you want to surrender even positive states to get to the next level up, so, and then you keep surrendering. It's like layers of the onion, because the ego likes to hook up. Of course the ego wants to let go of the negative states, but then tries to get hooked into positive states. But then if you surrender them, you go to a higher level of spirituality. Whereas if you won't let it go to see if there's anything more, then you'll never experience anything more, you see.
So you could cancel our belief in this group then?
In what way?
In the sense of if we're experiencing positive results as a
yes,
That's a good point.
Yeah, at a certain point, yes, you would let go of all meaning of good and bad. So nothing is good and bad. That would happen at the very advanced levels. You let go of everything, because it's also said. Everyone said, God is everywhere, in all times, in all places, in all situations. So if the ego is layering something as good or bad, at a certain point, in early recovery, it's useful to stick around groups and do lessons and stuff, because there is at that level that's going to be highly beneficial. But when you get to the very high levels, even that which is good you want to let go of, because now you're at a stage now where you want to even let that go, so that you can get to the next level up where there is no need, or at the very high level there's nothing you want or need from the world. I mean, if you're in a state of God consciousness, if there's pure peace, bliss, union and unity and love and happiness, I mean, if someone said, well, it's according to divine will. The body may move around and speak and talk, or it may not. But then there is no individual will to decide what it does. It's orchestrated by the divine. So you can intellectualize what would happen if you didn't have self-will, but you don't know. Once you've surrendered self-will, it's up to the divine will.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
There is nobody to hypothesize about what it should do, because that aspect of consciousness is no longer there. So the best way to understand that is the prayer of St. Francis, and many good prayers. They say you're now an instrument. You're an instrument of the divine. So there is no ego going, yeah, but I want to do this or do that, or this, it should be this way, it should be that way. It's like the universe or grace is just allowing the expression, or the non-expression. It might be that it would just sit down under a tree for the next 5 years blissed out, or it might be that it goes around talking everywhere and telling everyone about the divine. There's an ego there, it wants to understand everything, so you can give the job to the ego to accept everything. Because it says, I want to understand everything.
The ego wants to cling on to everything. But I always do the step 3 prayer, relieve me of the bondage of self.
I love it.
When I'm in despair and when I'm in hopelessness, I say relieve me from the bondage of self.
Yes.
Relieve me from the bondage of self.
Say again, believe me?
Relieve me from the step 3 prayer is God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me from the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I may help, of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. So you're asking him to remove your defects of character that are making ego glow.
Correct. Yeah, I love that. I think in 12-step literature, the step 3 prayer and the prayer of St. Francis are most closely aligned with the Course in Miracles. You know, I would say freedom from all self, all self-identity. And it's in the dying, in St. Francis, in the dying of the ego, one is born to eternal. This is what we're talking about today. So if you go beyond the states of time and form, then you enter into the place of what is here right now, which is timeless and formless and has no separation. Can we all discover that which is here right now, that is in that realm, and be at one with that, where there's no separation? So that is the dissolving. So that is not ascribing any sort of meaning or any sort of, I like to call any kind of projection onto anything out there.